Kindly take your seats. We will now begin with the session. I, Dr. Ishani Saraswat, Assistant Professor at BIMTech, welcome you once again to the National Summit for Energy Sector, Transforming HR, Agenda for Action, presented by BIMTech and the National HRD Network in association with Deloitte and Power HR Forum. We have been through very lively discussions in the morning. This session will now bring out various perspectives on transforming and nurturing talent. In today's business scenario, talent has become the key differentiator among organizations. While the energy sector has a large number of highly qualified professionals in senior roles, it now needs competent leaders who will help them compete and sustain, especially in the VUCA world of today. There is a need to relook at the HR philosophies and practices with a view to attracting, retaining, and promoting talent in the energy sector. To help our energy clients better understand and focus their leadership development efforts, BIMTech, along with NHRDN, under the guidance of Padma Shri Dr. Preetam Singh, conducted a qualitative research on the emerging business scenario coupled with the HR scenario, challenges, and the way forward in the energy sector. And to share with us the key findings of the research, I would like to invite on stage Dr. Mansi Chaudhary, Area Head HR at BIMTech.
Good afternoon all. Some of the research findings pertaining to this session were that the energy sector is facing multiple HR challenges, namely large number of retirements, skill gap issues in the light of new advanced technology, and differences arising out of a multi-generational workforce. HR processes and strategies like 360-degree feedback and succession planning need to be implemented for organization capability building so that there is no disconnect between strategies and their implementation. Thirdly, there is anxiety in terms of career growth expectations of the employees in light of the changing scenario of the energy sector. There is a need of competency-based career development, succession planning, and frameworks to identify high potential employees. So based on these research findings, what are some of the issues which we put forth in front of the panel? Technological development is changing the skills that employers need, replacing physical roles with knowledge-based roles. In the light of the skill gap faced by our industries, how do we source, hire, and retain the best talent as per the need? The way HR designs its policies and practices will play a very crucial role in the way talent gets retained and nurtured in the workplace. What significant changes are we foreseeing in HR philosophies and practices with a view to attract and retain talent in the energy sector? What are the best ways to ensure that people build their careers in the organization? And what could we do to ensure knowledge transfer from seniors to other team members so as to enable them to learn and grow?
Thank you, ma'am. And now, to know the views of our panelists on our critical issue, to discuss this at length, I take the opportunity to invite on stage our chairperson and moderator for the session, Mr. Saptarishi Roy, Director HR, NTPC. Mr. Roy is a graduate in electrical engineering from Visvesvaraya NIT Nagpur. His career spanning over 36 years encompasses the erection, commissioning, and operation of power plants and human resource management. His outstanding contribution has been the takeover and turnaround of low-performing power stations in Odisha and UP. He also led a team of World Energy Council, the India Secretariat. Welcome, sir. Now, I will also like to invite the panelists for this session in alphabetical order to take their seats on the dais. Our first panelist, Dr. Asha Bhandarkar, Distinguished Professor of Organizational Behavior, IMI Delhi, and Senior Fulbright Fellow, Darden School of Business. With an MA in Psychology and PhD in Business Administration from Osmania University, Dr. Bhandarkar is well known in the field of HR and leadership studies in India. Over the last 3 decades, she has been working closely with around 100 companies, and she has published 8 books and 50 research papers in various international and national journals. She has several accolades to her name, like the Senior Fulbright Fellowship, Leadership Thinker Award, the Best Teacher Award, Best Paper Award, and Best Case Award. Welcome, ma'am. Our next panelist, Dr. Avinash Chandra Joshi, Director HR, UJVN Limited. Dr. Joshi is a postgraduate in Modern Indian History from JNU and PhD from IIT Roorkee. He has more than 30 years of experience in core HR and CPSU under the Ministry of Power. Dr. Joshi has actively been associated with promoting training and development activities and has participated in international and national conferences. He has worked as Honorary Secretary of ISTD and presently is a National Council member of ISTD. Welcome on board, sir. I now welcome our next panelist, Dr. Jayant Kumar, CHRO, Tata Power. Dr. Jayant Kumar is responsible for all aspects of people management in Tata Power and its other group entities. An alumnus of XISS Ranchi for PGDPM and postgraduate in economics, he pursued PhD in the area of talent management. He has been able to make people and culture-related impact in complex business environments. Sir, glad to have you on the panel today. I now invite our next panelist, Mr. Nikhil K. Jain, Director Personnel, NHPC. Mr. Jain joined as Director Personnel in India's premier hydropower utility and a Schedule A enterprise of Government of India. Prior to this, he has been working in the capacity of Director Personnel of Air India. He has a brilliant academic career and has done BE from IIT Roorkee and LLB from Delhi University. He has worked at different levels in the Indian Railways and also as GGM HR in IRCTC and Executive Director in the Ministry of Railways. Sir, an honor to have you with us today. Our last, but definitely not the least, next panelist, Mr. Nikhil Shahane, Director HR, Technip. Mr. Shahane has over 15 years of HR experience, both at the strategic and operational levels, predominantly in the energy sector. He holds a Master's in Business Administration and a Master's in International HR Management from Cranefield School of Management, UK. He takes special interest in the subject of diversity and inclusion, both from a cultural as well as a gender standpoint. He has presented papers at various international conferences in the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an extremely captivating session with this power-packed panel. I now hand over the session to the chairperson and moderator, Mr. Saptarishi Roy, for further deliberations. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to this session of Transforming and Nurturing Talent. That is the title of this session. And in fact, I have a task in hand, that is to moderate this session with the galaxy of eminent speakers and professionals in the area of HR and academia. And as it is true with any of the tasks which has its own inherent share of challenges, I think this present task also comes with a challenge. And the challenge is, how do I keep the attention of each one of you engaged, being the post-lunch session? But let me assure you, I think the kind of discussions and the interest that will generate in this session, I can guarantee and assure you that each one of you will be glued to this session and those kind of, normally which comes with post-lunch sessions, I think you will not find in this session. So let me make it more interactive and start this session by throwing a question to the audience. What do you feel one most basic and most essential necessity for sustaining lifestyle of human being today and also likely to be in foreseeable future, other than one required for meeting the biological needs? Let me reiterate this question. This question is slightly lengthy. What is that one basic need and the most essential need, necessity, for sustaining lifestyle of human being today and also in foreseeable future, other than one required for meeting the biological needs? Could there be a very, prompt responses? Yeah, Suresh, as I say.
Connectivity in terms of internet.
Connectivity in terms of internet, yes. Mobile. Pardon? Power. Energy, power, yeah. I think environment, very good.
Clean air.
Yeah. Pardon?
Clean air.
Clean air, that is again related to the environment.
Of appreciation.
Sense of appreciation, yeah. Human resources must have that, element of concern. Yeah. Productivity, yes, very true. I think I will just sum it up, and I think you very aptly come up with the responses. And one of the responses definitely is having something to do with this particular session and this conference, and that is energy. I think we all agree that this is one such requirement which is essential for sustaining the lifestyle of mankind, at least not only now, but also for some time in future, which we can foresee. So therefore, this session has its immense importance in terms of the very relevance and existence of mankind and human being for times to come. How we can make it more, enriching will depend upon our abilities to shape this kind of changes. So when we talk about energy, let me just give you a very brief, snapshot of what exactly the kind of upheavals which this energy sector is going through. I think a lot has been said in the morning, but even at the cost of repetition, I think it would be a nice thing to connect with this present session. So as we all know, energy is the main driver of economic and social development. Till a few years ago, the only uncertainty in energy sector was the price of oil. But today, there are more known sources in the world than ever before. And this simple anxiety of the past has now been replaced by the complex changes of new realities. Some of the studies that I have come across in the recent past suggest that energy demand is likely to be double in next 35 years' time, with share of electricity increasing faster than the primary energy supply. The demand mostly coming from developing nations. We also are likely to see the significant development happening in renewable energy, and it is expected that globally almost 30% of the power generation will be from renewable as compared to 23% today in next 20 years time frame. And renewable by very nature is intermittent and going to create a major disruptions in terms of the grid security and stability. With decreased cost of production, wind and solar energy is increasingly recognized as the competitive sources and provider of great potential. Hydropower, with greater potential of its flexibility for balancing the intermittent renewable energy, is also a force to reckon with. Transportation is set to undergo a massive change over the next few years, with biofuel and electric vehicles powering up to 15 to 30% of our transportation energy requirements in next 20 years time frame. On environmental front, the situation is no different, as greenhouse gas scenario is likely to increase manifold, with potential to expose our energy infrastructure to disaster. Accelerating changes in the policy, technological innovations, and consumer expectations are making energy markets increasingly complex. Current business models struggle to guarantee both competitiveness and affordable energy in future. The low-hanging fruits might have already been picked. Now the need additional demand-side investment, innovation, and stronger technological breakthrough to significantly reduce the world's energy intensity. To sum up the entire scenario, today we live in a time of increasing uncertainty, extraordinary changes, and hard choices. These emerging realities are creating more risks but also opportunities. The only certainty in this uncertain, complex, and the fast-changing energy space is the need to have constantly transform and nurture talent. I think you all will tend to agree with me. This conference is taking place at a unique time for the energy sector, a time of grand transition, as we all know it. How we prepare our critical talent to navigate through this grand energy transition will define winners and the losers. And when we talk about talents, I think in the morning session, we have seen the kind of expectations from the CEOs and the CMDs of leading power utilities and manufacturing sectors in the energy sector. That is going to set the agenda for HR for years to come. Now, the ability of HR to respond to this kind of changes, which is largely being shaped by the market, I think will have a very clear-cut kind of imperatives for the HR function. And if you are able to navigate these changes, if you are able to come up with this kind of expectations, I think this success will be largely defined by our abilities. So on this note, I once again take this opportunity to welcome you all. I think before I move on to my tasks, let me set some of the ground rules. It would be a good idea if each of the speakers are given some time wherein they can speak about the kind of perspective which they carry with them, and also if some insights about the industry practices, the HR practices, and the kind of challenges which they face in their own organizations, along with the kind of roadmap if they have drawn. If you can get a flavor of that, I think that would be the kind of expectations from each one of them. So having gone through, once we go through these speakers to share their viewpoints, I think we can have a quick round of rapid fire questions, and then we'll leave this floor open to the audience for any question asked to meet your need for appetite for questions. So I hope that this is okay. So I would request the first speaker, Madam Asha Bhandarkar, to kindly come and share her perspective.
Good afternoon to everyone. Fellow co-panelists, distinguished co-panelists, distinguished members in the audience. I want to thank the organizers for providing this opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you. Okay. Just to dive into the topic, because we are really rushing for time, as in I'm feeling the sense of time because I have a flight to catch, not a dramatic this thing, incidentally it happened. I just want to pick a few things in terms of context, because it is the context which helps us to understand what are the needed competencies. Okay, and since we are talking about nurturing talent, you dive directly into what competencies are needed. So in the morning, Dr. Preetham Singh, Mr. Arvi Shahi, Mr. Pujari nicely brought out some of the issues, and our session chair just now, and together if I want to give you a snapshot, we are talking of green energy, we are talking of cost effectiveness, we are talking of technological challenges, we are talking of millennials, and above all we are talking of corporate Mahabharata, that is the competitive forces which are buffeting us. So this is the context. So that's one part. The other part is I'm speaking from not just an academic point of view. I think for the last 25 years been very closely associated with the corporate sector, conducting training, doing competency assessments, competency mapping, feedback, so on and so forth. So I'm speaking, first of all, I don't want it to sound like a very idealistic speech, you know, that this should be done, that should be done, because I think corporate sector, especially whatever I've experienced in the public sector, including the energy sector, suffer from a couple of blind spots. And I think those blind spots are the ones, if it can be handled, we can do a much better job at talent nurturing and talent development. So first blind spot I want to highlight is regarding whether organizations actually value talent and develop talent systematically. Reason why I'm asking this question has also been reinforced by a study. I think Spectre and a couple of others have published a book on a research they conducted on 118 CEOs in India. And they were trying to identify what are their strengths, their competencies, the leadership CEO competencies. What emerged from that is, number